It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Breakthroughs are the it's all been worth it moments, aren't they? Like when you just have this breakthrough and you're like, oh, yes, we've struggled, we've gone through hard things, and now, boom, there it is.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Podcasts at happyfamilies.com.au. That's how you can contact us and let us know what you would like us to talk about on the Happy Families podcast. If you've got questions or if you've got feedback for us, we love to hear from you. Podcasts at happyfamilies.com.au. G'day, my name's Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm here with Kylie, my wife, mum to our 6 daughters. Hey, why are you laughing at me? You're literally sitting there like, you're looking at my hair. Is my hair a bit crazy?
You've got like a whole part at the back behind your headphones that's
I can
sticking
feel
up
it.
like Big Bird.
Yeah, I can literally, now that you've said that, I can feel I need to go and spend some time in the bathroom looking in the mirror. Nobody can see. You didn't need to raise that. This is a podcast. For all everyone knows, I look like Ken and you look like Barbie.
Oh, is that?
I hope not. at every level for both of us, I hope not. You know what? Life with kids is challenging, and it's interesting when we look at the feedback that we get from our listeners, how many people are just saying, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, this is hard, help. Like, what do I do about my little child who's not sleeping or my big child who's causing me to cry into my pillow at night because of the decisions that they're making and everything in between? And so today we decided that we were going to take parenting from a different angle. We were going to do our best to celebrate the awesomeness of parenting.
We've asked some of our listeners when they have experienced that, it's all been worth it moment.
And we can't wait to hear what they have to say. Our first response was from Jess. This is what she told us.
My kids are still quite little, so I haven't had too many moments yet when I feel like it's all been worth it. I feel like I've fully realised that yet. But I certainly have felt that my approach to parenting has been worth it when I see my 6-year-old comforting my 2-year-old when she's upset, singing to her or copying my language in the way he interacts with her. So saying things like, I know you want to play with that, but it's not safe, something like that. I think that's really sweet. And seeing them cuddling or sitting together when no one's watching fills my heart with joy.
This can backfire a little bit at times, can't it? We can hear the worst of our parenting come out of our children's mouths, but how good is it when we hear them say the most beautiful things?
I know.
And you just know, I do that too.
Yeah. I think that's why the webinars and the podcasts that we've done on sibling rivalry are so popular. Like it's just heaven when the kids are kind to one another. I love seeing our big kids prioritize their little sisters. Like every now and again, we've got kids that are in their 20s, 19, 17 and 14, and then we've got the 2 little ones who are 11 and 7. And I just love it when the big ones come to us and they'll say, hey, Mum, Dad, thought we might jump in the car and take the little ones down to the park and hang out with them for a bit. Would you mind if we did that? And we're kind of like, oh, yes. Like on so many levels, oh, yes. So,
but even the 11-year-old, she'll come and notice that Emily's having a hard time, and so she'll kind of take her out onto the trampoline, so create a little bit of fun. So just seeing them in those spaces.
It's all worth it. Totally. Hear what you're saying, Jess. Who was next? Ali. Ali's up next.
My 6-year-old decided he would share his Barocca with his 2-year-old sister, and he was very kind to her, which has taken a lot of work to get to that point for him to think about what she might like and what might make her happy.
Isn't it great when our children just get to that point where they've got the capacity to see that someone else has a need?
Yeah, but I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, don't give your kids Barocca. They're going to be bouncing off the wall.
I was waiting for her to say that. I thought this is going to be a disaster story. It was so nice that it wasn't.
Let's hear from Amanda.
Since listening to the podcast, I have introduced some family values, and my kids are at the point now where if one of them mocks the other, one of them will pipe up and say, that's against our family values and that's not okay. And it always makes me smile because we really have a good grasp on what our family values are now. And Justin's kind of helped us come up with those family values. It's been really great.
How awesome is it when our kids are actually the police in the family? They actually help manage things and just remind, not the police, but just remind one another, hang on a sec, that's not what we do in this house.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome.
As a parent, I'm just thinking, they are listening. They're listening. Hey, Jo, let's hear from you.
Well, in the current lockdown world of this year and last year, Charlotte has really, really struggled with anxiety and has fought every time we have to take her somewhere different. So she has still had to go and do schooling because we're essential workers, and every day it has been a lot of crying and no, mummy, don't leave. So we decided that Charlotte probably would benefit from having some psychological help, which involved a lot more sessions with us than her. And we ended up having to do things such as make a little bracelet for her to wear and kiss her hand so that she's always got our kiss with us. And it was a lot of work for her as well because she had to try and overcome some of her fears and her anxieties. And so I was very, very proud when after the school holidays this year, she managed to go on the very first day, give me a kiss, jump out of the car and head straight into classroom with her teachers without any of the previous angst that we used to have.
This must have been such a big win for the whole family after going through all of the angst around, anxiety and separation and all of those things, to finally come to day one of school and see your little girl just walk off. Oh, that's magic.
Breakthroughs are the it's all been worth it moments, aren't they? Like when you just have this breakthrough and you're like, oh, yes, we've struggled, we've gone through hard things, and now boom, there it is. After the break, we're going to have a look at what happens when bullying moments become it's all been worth it moments, and how we get our kids to try new things and see them grow and develop. Just the delight that comes there.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
Imagine a home where discipline got results without anyone having to feel bad or in trouble. The Do's and Don'ts of Discipline is a webinar to help parents set limits with love, compassion and humanity. Find it now at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. And today, we're just reveling in those moments where it's all been worth it.
So we're asking our Happy Families listeners to let us know when it's all been worth it for them, for you. Kayleen had this to say.
My eldest daughter has had her first real heartbreaking breakup with a long-term sort of boyfriend. And she was on the couch and she was just beside herself, and our youngest child, Joe, was looking at her. Next thing, he goes out to her bedroom, gets her pillow, stomps back down the kitchen, his very not quite 4-year-old way, lifted up her head and very grumpily said, "Lift your head," shoves the pillow under her head, covers her over with his blanket, and then just crawled up on the couch and cuddled her. And I think that was probably our most recent it's all been worth it moment, because we spent a lot of time and energy trying to teach Joe to be gentle and compassionate and notice other people's body language and how they're feeling.
This one really pulls at the heartstrings. I love how Kayleen had put it, this acknowledgement that her son wanted to be so gentle and kind, and he wasn't necessarily so gentle and kind in his approach, but the message was there and it was felt and it was needed. And then for him to just lie next to his sister and just be in her space, how beautiful. That would have been such a beautiful moment.
Have you noticed how much the theme of kindness keeps coming up? It's just, these are the times where we look at each other and we just go, yeah, this is living. Just earlier this week, one morning as the kids were getting ready for school, our baby girl, our 7-year-old Emily, she was practicing her dance for the school assembly. The whole class is going to dance to Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. And there was this magical moment where
the sun was streaming in.
It actually was streaming through the window, and every one of the children were standing there watching Emily as she did this dance. And I looked around the room,
massive grin on their faces.
Emily was in her element, but all the kids were there as well. And it's just like, it's one of those moments where you just go, loving this. This is what makes it worth it. It's one of those great moments. Megan, what has your all been worth it moment been?
My 7-year-old son, who has been experiencing a lot of emotional meltdowns and was very, very difficult and very late in being able to put into words how he's feeling or be able to negotiate or work out how to deal with his emotions in any constructive form. His go-to was just the sort of the toddler mechanism of full meltdown. My proud moment was him coming home from school yesterday saying not only did he not have a meltdown when somebody was being mean to him and a friend on the playground, but he was able to actually stand up for himself and say, well, actually, no, that's not accurate. You don't need to be mean. And if you continue to do this, I will have to go and talk to my teacher, and I'm sure we can get along better.
It's all been worth it. What has it been for you, Nicole?
My son's had lots of challenges. And he went on camp, grade 6 camp last term, and he was away for 4 days. He did really well. And it was really amazing. And because 2 years ago, he wouldn't have been able to do it. I know he had heaps of personal growth out of it. I can see that. So very, very good, and lovely to get nice feedback from the teachers too.
As I've listened to all of these experiences, what I've noticed is the common thread of kindness and this ability to overcome hardship.
Yeah, growth. Yeah, kindness and growth.
When we see our children growing, we are able to celebrate alongside them, but we actually have to go through some really hard stuff to recognise that growth.
Yeah. If it was all easy, we'd never go, oh my goodness, the struggle was worth it. Like it's about seeing the hard times, the down times, the difficulties that makes you go, it's all been worth it. Hey, I got a question for you. And I haven't asked you to prep anything, so I might be putting you on the spot. I have done some prep for this, by the way.
Oh, that's unfair.
What are your it's all been worth it moments?
You know, when I think back to when the kids were younger, we lived near the beach and we all loved spending time on the beach. But inevitably, every time we said we were going to the beach, we would have at least 3 of them, if not 4 or 5, go, oh, we don't want to go to the beach. And they would chuck a mental. And I would look at you so many times and go, what is the point? This is just too hard. It would take us an hour to get out the door because we were fighting people who didn't want to leave, their book behind or whatever it was.
Well, they just didn't want to get in the car, or that's my seat, or hang on, I forgot something.
And they would be fighting with each other, and we would, we're going to the beach, and we'd put them in the car and we'd get down there and they'd be fighting the whole time in the car, and I would literally just go, why are we doing this? Like, why are we putting ourselves through this?
We're going to the beach and we're going to have a good time.
And then there would just be that moment where after everybody had, shuffled down to the sand, and we had those that were, sitting cross-legged and cross-armed, I'm not going to have fun, and a few of them would peter off down to the water, and before you knew it, we'd have 6 children down in the water. Everyone was splashing and laughing, and sometimes it would only last for about 5 minutes. But you and I would stand on the beach holding hands, and I would look out at just that little moment in time and just be so grateful that we had made that effort to be there, because in that moment it just felt amazing.
Well, it's all been worth it. As I reflected on everything that Jess and Ali and Amanda and Joe and Kayleen and Megan and Michelle and Nicole said, and thinking even about what you've said, you know what I've noticed? Nobody said, when they finally got the A, when they finally were class captain, when they were finally, there was no emphasis at all on achievement, grades, accomplishment. There was no commentary at all about that. The commentary was about kindness. It was about smiles and laughter and hugs. And I think when I consider my it's all been worth it moments, yes, there are some big moments. There are some deeply personal moments, but most of the time, my it's all been worth it moments, they're in the small, sparkling, twinkling, fleeting bits where I see a child prepare breakfast for her sisters, pull out the smoothie maker and say, who wants smoothies this morning? I'm going to look after breakfast. Or it's that moment where they nestle in and give us a hug and want to tell us about their day.
She doesn't do it anymore, but when Emily was little, she literally would stick her nose in the crook of my neck and just inhale me.
You smell good, Mummy.
She did. I miss those days.
Yeah, and sitting around the table and just saying, hey, what were you grateful for today? What made you smile? What brought you life and light today? They're not big things. And what I've actually found, and the research would support this, is that the it's all been worth it moments, we can look for the big moment and say, oh, it was that great big thing. But if we do, we're going to be perpetually disappointed because those moments don't come along very often. Instead, it's these fleeting moments of connection, that tiny little bit where we're like, I totally see you. I completely hear you. We feel like we're part of something together. They're the moments that I think are the it's all been worth it moments. And the great thing is, if we're intentional about it, we get to have them every single day.
That's the best part about it. If we're waiting for those big things, we're not going to have them regularly. But if we just take the time to look for those tiny little glimmers of hope, then we can have them.
Well, we hope that as you've listened to the Happy Families podcast, I cut you off halfway through a sentence.
You
You're looking at me like,
did.
hang on, I'm not finished.
We can have them every day.
Right. Every day.
Every day.
Get those last two words in. We hope that the Happy Families podcast has all been worth it for you. Thank you so much for listening. We are so grateful that so many people have found us and listened to what we have to share so that you can make your families happier. Tomorrow, I'll Do Better Tomorrow. It's a really, it's our favourite episode of the week where we get to share the stuff that we've been intentional and reflecting on so that we can make our families happier. I'll Do Better Tomorrow is our podcast tomorrow morning. And then Monday morning, we start talking about Parental Guidance, the brand new TV show on Channel 9 with yours truly as the co-host and parenting expert, talking parenting with 10 families from around the country who really think that they're getting this parenting stuff right. We have finally seen a preview of episode 1, and while it gets off to a slow start, by the time we start the conversation about smacking, this is must-watch TV. Oh, my goodness. It's so good. And what I love is the way the families deal with it. I mean, there are really hard conversations and they talk about hard things together. But this, we're going to talk about it next week. It's going to be amazing. So the podcast tomorrow, I'll Do Better Tomorrow. Parental Guidance starts on Monday, November 1 for all of our Australian audience. On Channel 9. We can't wait to talk to you about it. The Happy Families podcast is produced by the marvellous Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. Love your work, Craig. Thanks so much for all that you do for us. And if you're really enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review. Apple Podcasts is the best place to do that, but wherever you listen to your podcasts will be fine. For more info about making your family happier, visit happyfamilies.com.au.